And now white has options to either capture on e5 or to push d5. Here developing another knight might also be a good option for white, but instead he goes for e4. And that's a slight inaccuracy because after takes, queen takes d4, and now comes knight to c6, attacking this queen, and after this queen goes back, and now you can see black is quite ahead of white in development. And guys, usually this position continues with the move which is rook to e8. And you can see this rook eyes the king, so white can continue this game by knight at g goes to e2 so that he can castle, and now comes knight to e5 attacking this bishop, and after this bishop goes back a6 so that this knight can't jump to b5. And finally white can castle, and you can see this game will continue like this. But in the actual game, after the move bishop to d3, after this move, here Rashid deviates from this line. He basically goes for knight to g4. He's basically eyeing the f2 and d3 squares, and this move also clears the path for this f pawn, which black can anytime push in the future. And if white tries to attack this knight by playing h3, then simply this knight can jump to e5, which becomes a fantastic outpost for the knight. So here it would be better for white to castle alongside and get the king out of the danger. But instead Polugaevsky made some mistake by knight at g goes to e2, and basically that's a mistake because here white must focus on controlling the h4 squares. Why I am saying this? Because now Rashid immediately brings his queen to h4, targeting the f2 pawn, and here the best defense of this is to push g3, which attacks this queen. And I know some of you might be worried about the move queen to h3 with the idea of queen to g2 infiltration, but white can easily tackle this by knight to f4, attacking this queen, and the only square left for this queen is h6, and after that white can castle alongside, and you can see now this king is completely safe, whereas black queen is now stuck in the corner, and it takes quite time to reach the good squares. By that time white can slowly improve the position of his pieces. But in the actual game, after the move queen to h4, here white goes for knight to g3, and that's a mistake because now black can go for this amazing move which is f5, and you can see the threat. And let's suppose if takes, now comes bishop to h6 attacking this queen, and you guys can see that there are multiple ways for white to continue this game, and basically I am choosing these two squares because mostly people will either go to this c2 square or maybe to d1 square. So let's suppose if you go for, let's suppose, queen to d1, but guys, in this position now black can go for this killer move knight takes f2, and since and you can see now this queen and this rook is attacked. So let's suppose if black decides to capture this knight by king, now comes bishop takes f5, and in the next move black is going to give a discover check, so this king has to move, and if this king goes to g1, then black will simply give a check from d4 square. So that's why the best square left for this king is e1, and now comes rook at a goes to e8 check, knight to e2, and guys, just watch properly. How will you continue this attack as of black? The first move that comes in our mind is simply capturing this bishop by bishop takes d3, but guys, this is basically a huge blunder because after queen takes bishop. Now you can see this queen and this knight on g3 protects this knight on e2. And in the next move, white is going to bring this another rook on f-file so that he can exchange this active rook. And by all of this, you can see black will lose all of his advantage. So that's why let me go back to the move, which is knight to e2. Yup. So that's why the correct move order for black is to go for bishop to f4. And basically we are doing this so that we can capture this active knight on g3, which is a defender of the e2 knight. So basically we have to remove the defender of the e2 knight so that we can easily attack. And let's suppose if white decides to exchange this light square bishop by bishop takes f5, this is basically not going to work, and white can't recapture due to the pin. And you can see in the next move, black is going to capture this knight. And let's suppose I will show you a quick variation like rook to f1, bishop takes g3 check, h takes g3, queen takes g3 check, taking benefit of the pin. So this king has to move. Now queen to e3 check, king to e1, rook takes f1 check, king takes f1, rook to f8 check, king to e1, knight to b4. And in the next move, this check is coming, and you can see this is all over for white. Okay, so let me go back to the move bishop to h6. Yeah, just wait. And where is our move? Yup. Okay, so finally we are back in this move, and let's suppose what will happen if this queen goes to c2, and if which looks good at the first glance because of this strong pair which is directly eyeing on this g6 pawn. But black will now firstly go for bishop takes f5 check, knight takes f5, rook at a goes to e8 check, king to d1. And guys, now I just want you all to pause the video and think what will you play as of black. And if you find the move rook takes f5, then congratulations, you are a genius. And now the best move for white is to ignore this rook and instead to go for f4, because if white is not careful and he decides to just capture this bishop, just capture this rook, now comes knight takes f2 check. And as you can see, all of these squares are already covered by the black pieces. So white is now forced to capture this knight. To capture this queen, and then simply queen takes f2. And yeah, that's all. So that is so one thing is also clear that let me go back to the move which is bishop to h6. Yep. So after this move, one thing is also clear that this queen also cannot go to this square. So where this queen can go? Here the one more square left for this queen is this wait a second, this which is this square, which is e2 square. But after that, knight to d4. And I already told you that this queen cannot either go to these squares. So the only best square left for this queen is e4. And if bishop takes f5, queen takes knight, bishop takes d3, queen takes d3, rook at a goes to e8 check. And if this king goes to d1, then simply knight takes f2 check. And if this king goes to let's suppose if this king goes to f1, then simply rook takes f2 check. So that's why the only best move for white is to defend this check by knight at c goes to e4. But after that, rook takes f2. And you can see now black successfully infiltrates towards the white territory, and in the next few moves this position is also winning for black. Okay, so let me go back to our original move, which is the move yup. So basically in this actual game here, basically Rashid missed that move f4, and he goes for knight at g goes to e5. Maybe he wants to centralize the knights. And here, black can go for this amazing move, knight to g4, threatening mate in one. So to stop this, h3 is now recommended, and now comes this amazing sacrifice. Can you find this? If you want to find this, just pause the video and try. And guys, basically the move is knight takes f2. And one thing is clear, that white cannot capture this with the queen due to the threat of bishop to d4 fork. Here the best move for white is to capture this knight by the rook, because if you let's suppose instead of capturing, you decide to go for king to h2, now comes knight takes h3. And if g takes h3, you can see now this h3 pawn is attacked by this and this, so black can simply take benefit of this by giving a check. King to g1, bishop to d4 check, rook to f2, queen takes d3 check, king to f1, bishop to h3 check, king to e1, knight to b4. And in the next move, multiple threats are coming, and you can see this is completely winning for black. But in the actual game, after castling, here Rashid goes for f5, and for white it's better to just capture on f5, because after takes, now knight at g goes to e2, and in the next move white can go for f4 so that he can stop this pawn and everything looks good. But after the move f5, basically here white missed that move and he blunders by f3. And basically this move weakens the e3 square, and Rashid now takes benefit of this by bishop to h6. And here the move f4 is recommended, but he goes for and now Rashid solidifies the pawn structure by g5 and knight to d5, and now rook to f7 might be considered so that he can defend this pawn, but instead Rashid goes for g4. Basically he goes according to his plan so that he can destroy the kingside structure. And now Rashid goes for queen to h3, and you can see now multiple threats are coming. So to deal with all of this, Polugaevsky just tries to lock the position by f4, and now he is attacking this knight. And let's suppose if this knight goes to f3, that would be a mistake, because this gives white a chance to escape from the threats of white. Which black is creating. If king goes to here king to f2, and if black gives a check by queen to h2, now simply this king can run, and since white is now threatening to almost trap the queen, so let's suppose if this queen goes to h5, rook to h1 attacking this queen, so queen to g6, and after that knight takes c7 attacking this rook, and suddenly you can see now white is back into the game because this king is safe on e3, basically surrounded by these pawns and this bishop. So that's why after seeing all of this, in this position Rashid decides to give up this knight by bishop to e6. And now there are two possibilities for white. Let's suppose if white captured this knight by the pawn, now in this position black can go for bishop takes d5, and basically we are doing this so that we can remove the defender of e3 square. And now the move bishop to c1 is important. If white is not careful and he decides to capture this bishop by e takes d5, bishop to e3 check, rook to f2, and finally bishop takes f2 will be a checkmate. Here another possibility after the move bishop to e6, which white can consider is bishop takes e5. And again, if this happens, then black can go for this trick, which is knight takes e5. And again, if white captured this knight, then black will firstly go for bishop takes d5 with the same idea of bishop to e3 check. So that's why the best option for white is to just go for king to f2. And if the check, simply king to e3. And again, you can see now there is no more further checks and this game will be completely equal. But after bishop to, let me go back, bishop to e6, here Polugaevsky goes for bishop to c2. He basically defends this knight by the support of this queen, and now black can continue this game by bishop takes d5. Because if queen takes d5 check, simply rook to f7, bishop takes e5, d takes e5, rook to f2, and in the next move you can see rook to h2 is coming. But instead of moving the queen, here black can go for this amazing move, knight to d4, trying to deflect this knight so that black can capture on g3. And you cannot go for the move rook to h2 because of the threat knight to f3. So that's why after the move knight to d4, here this is basically now forced. And after this, queen takes g3 check, rook to g2, queen to e3 check, king to h1, and then e takes d4. And now you can see black is creating multiple threats like bishop takes f4, or maybe this queen can also give a check. But after bishop to c2, yep, let me go back to the move. Yep, after this move, here Rashid missed that and he goes for the move rook to f7. And obviously white now cannot capture this knight due to the pin, so that's why king to d2 is recommended so that he can get escape from these squares. But instead he goes for rook to h1, and you know what Rashid played in this position? He goes for the killer move, I mean the god level move, rook takes f4. He sacrificed his queen because after white captured the queen, now Rashid just give a check, and the only square left for this king is d4, then bishop to g7, and you can see what's coming next. So that's why the move knight to f1 is so basically the move knight to f1 is recommended, and basically is so that white can bring this queen to defend this king, or we can say after moving this knight, this queen can target this rook, and basically white can anytime capture this rook if it's required. But instead he goes for a4, and that's a blunder because of the check which is coming, which is c5. Here he simply en passant, b takes c6, and to stop this mate, bishop to d3, closing the rank of this rook so that this king can escape. But Rashid simply captures this bishop by a check, or I mean a discovered check by this bishop. So that's why And in this position, the final move by Rashid is knight to c6 check, and in this position, Lev Polugaevsky resigned because the only move is king to a6, and after that, knight to c5 will be a checkmate. What an amazing game by Rashid. Imagine checkmating his opponent with these two beautiful knights. That's why we called him a legend. He also has a good score against the chess legend Mikhail Tal. That's really amazing. Guys, if you like this video, please make sure to subscribe to my channel for more. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.